Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another spectacular and sizzling episode of the RODANE podcast. I'm the host, Steven, and I'm joined by my co-host. He takes a lot of H, and he's full of BO. It's Daniel.
And I am, of course, always joined by my co-host, Steven, who is Amazon. He's Amazon. Come on.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, Daniel. So today we have a special topic, right? Outside of our regular season of the kaiju movies, right?
Yes.
You wanted to discuss about a particular merger of sorts in the in the corporate world.
There is news in the biz.
In the biz.
And, we are on that biz.
That one wizard who's running AT&T who keeps mesmerizing people into making deals with him has done it again.
No, it's I generally wanted to talk about the developing merger between AT&T and Discovery, because for the real OGs out there, Steven and I did a unofficial pilot where we actually talked about HBO Max as a streaming service.
Right.
Which is funny because none of us have HBO Max because we can't.
And it's not available in Europe.
Nope.
Even if with a VPN, you can't actually use the service because it requires a US credit card at the interface.
Yep.
I tried.
It's almost like AT&T want this to fail. Nah, I'm kidding. So I thought the news of this merger would be fun to sort of kind of redo our old episode because a lot of people might not have seen it, and also talk about the developing nature of AT&T and Warner Media because it's kind of hilarious and sad. And there's a larger discussion about, media and big tech and big companies and things like that. So yeah, there's just a lot of things to bite into.
All right. So AT&T, right, as a company, as a conglomerate,
right?
They own Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah. And when they bought Warner Bros., they renamed it as Warner Media, which is the umbrella term for all of the different companies that Warner Brothers owns.
Right, like HBO, including HBO, right?
Right. HBO,
and
DC,
Vice.
The Warner Bros. Game division as well falls under there, which has a lot of studios underneath it. Things like
Santa Monica, right?
NetherRealm.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this merger is it's kind of been expected in a way, because AT&T is in a massive debt. They own like $160 billion, and they kind of want to get rid of it. So there's been a lot of rumors over the years that they would sell off bits of their like intellectual properties to other people, including the Warner Bros. Game division was rumored to be sold off. This also includes things like Crunchyroll, which they also own, which would be sold to Sony, but I don't know if that deal ever went through. But this has now resulted in an overall deal where AT&T will kind of sell Warner Media in a like weird way. Like they will dislodge themselves from Warner Media, and then Discovery will buy 29% of that company and then merge to form a new company that AT&T now owns 71% of. And Discovery will pay like $43 billion for it so that AT&T can pay off some of its debt.
Here's what I don't understand, Daniel.
Shoot.
If AT&T sells their stock to Discovery, how does AT&T then own 70% or 71% of the new company?
Because they only sell off 29% to Discovery.
Oh, because they own everything, right?
Yeah.
So basically, Discovery just pays their debt to own stock in the AT&T company.
In the Warner Media company, not
in the Warner Media. Yeah.
This is not like when Disney bought Fox or 20th Century Studios, because there it was a direct acquisition. So Disney now owns everything associated with 20th Century Studios. This is more of a we are taking away responsibility kind of a thing. There's also kind of murmurings that Discovery is now going to actually run this company. Like the head of Discovery is going to now run this new company. So AT&T is really just letting go in a way, but still owning it, because of course,
You gotta still own it.
until they like sell it to Apple or whatever. So the real question is, what the hell does this actually mean for things like HBO Max, which is their big thing?
It's a streaming service.
Yeah, but it's become more and more like a lot of companies have become more and more aware that streaming services are kind of the next big thing if you want to make a lot of money.
Right.
See things like Disney, who has shifted a lot of effort into Disney Plus versus their theme parks, which of course used to be one of their biggest revenue streams, but because of COVID has now shown to be a little bit more unstable. What this generally means is just, from what I can understand, is that at&t will be a lot more hands-off, which means Warner can kind of run itself in a way. I mean,
Well, because you say they'll be more hands off because they own less stock now.
yeah, and also they are literally handing over control of this company to Discovery, because they have, the thing is, at&t is a telecommunications company. They're a phone company. They don't
A
create,
very bad one.
yeah, but they are still a phone company, and they're not like Disney or Netflix, for instance, a company built on making, content. So the idea is, if they give control over to Discovery, but not ownership, then Discovery, who is, used to making content, will be better at running the overall company than AT&T.
Yeah, but Discovery isn't just a company that produces documentaries and reality TV.
Kind of, yeah.
So how would they be better? I'm just playing devil's advocate.
They would have more experience running a thing like a streaming service, because they have one, and they would have more sort of industry contacts in terms of like getting access to talent.
Yeah, Guy Fieri and
Yeah, obviously.
the Finding Bigfoot gang,
Oh god.
that creepy dude who would train dogs on Animal Planet.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Remember that guy?
Oh yeah. Oh my god. What was it called? The Dog Whisperer or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Fuck that guy. Anyway.
I remember that. I remember watching that show. But yeah, generally they will be better at running a company like that than AT&T, who so far has basically been shitting the bed.
Well,
and of course, this
the
doesn't
thing
mean
is,
that Discovery will now make HBO make only, reality TV. Like, of course,
Guy
HBO
Fieri spin-offs.
Yeah, like HBO knows how to run itself. It's just more on the like board level and on the sort of on the macro level. I don't think they're suddenly going to kick out HBO and be like, this is TLC now.
Us not being insiders, and usually people who report on this stuff are not insiders.
Right.
So we actually, I just want to appreciate the fact that we don't know what this would mean in terms of the content that we receive from HBO and HBO Max.
Right.
A lot of people have noticed that there are some weird decisions sort of at an executive level, not really at a business board level, when it comes to Warner Media.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of their efforts seem to be shifted toward things that are not really making them that much money.
And there's been a lot of like internal problems that have led to restructuring. Like, what's the guy's name? Kevin Tsujihara, who had an affair with an actress. And the whole Joss Whedon, Jeff Johns thing.
The internal investigation.
Yeah, that. Let's just say that Warner Media has been very good at pissing people off in the industry, from what I know.
Do you know that? So obviously a big success for HBO Max recently is a little thing we covered called the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, right? It was a huge success.
Was it though?
Right? Well, it's I keep seeing numbers, mostly from pro Snyder Cut websites, telling me that it's doing incredible numbers.
The main issue is we don't actually have the numbers, and I actually think the fact that we don't have the numbers is very telling.
All right. So allegedly it's very successful.
Allegedly, yes.
At least it got people talking, right?
That it did.
and it's on. It's a thing that people talked about, and it's on HBO Max. That's an advantage, right?
And of course, they have actually this week starting promoting, as we're recording, of course, started promoting the Friends reunion special, which has been under production for like a year.
Who gives a fuck anyway? If it's probably a lot of people.
A lot of people, because just they released a teaser for it at the beginning of the week, and already an hour after it was released, it had like 2 million views.
All right. I had no idea this existed, but okay. Yeah. Obviously, there's been a lot of interest in the Snyder Cut, regardless of what you think about it.
Right.
And like just a month after they released the Snyder Cut, they released a trailer for the 4K Blu-ray of the original Joss Whedon cut, and it got downvoted into the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can you be more tone deaf than this?
Yeah.
Obviously, people hate that.
There's also other decisions, like their decision to move all of their 2021 releases to be day and day on HBO Max, meaning that you can watch them on HBO Max free of charge.
Well, you need to pay the streaming service.
But otherwise free of charge. You know, they're not doing the Disney model of like you need to pay $30 extra for this shit to watch Mulan.
Well, are you arguing that this is worse than Disney's idea?
No, probably. I am arguing that the implementation of it was terrible because nobody knew it was happening until it was publicly announced, which meant that a lot of talent and directors and people associated had to turn around at Warner Bros. And go like, but what's happening to our deals? Like, what's happening to our back-end deals? Like Legendary, who has been funding a lot of Warner Brothers content.
Yeah, the Godzilla movies.
Godzilla, right? Dune was like, yo, the fuck? We have money in this.
Bro.
And a lot of stars were having to negotiate, back-end deals, like new back-end deals, because of course they were not going to make as much money in theaters, which meant that they probably couldn't meet their old back-end deals. And apparently Warner Bros. Had to pay like a lot of money for this thing to happen, like behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, I think, this particular decision, I think it's like, what is the winning option, really? Because obviously you're not going to make any of the amount of money you were expecting to make in theaters when you initially produced these things.
Right.
And, you want to pitch towards your streaming service because obviously that's the one that's going to make probably even more money now than it would have if it wasn't a pandemic, because a lot more people are at home and have more free time because they're unemployed. Haha.
But then you can look at other things like dollars. It's one of the more expensive streaming services. And they announced like last week, I think, that they're finally going to do a $10 version with ads. And it's like, why wasn't that out? Like, you also then don't get access to the day-and-day releases, which begs the question, like, then why is it only $5 less?
Right.
If it was like half the price and you don't get the day-and-day releases, then it was like, okay, but only like a third? Come on.
How much is Netflix?
Netflix is about the same. But of course, but Netflix is also a bigger brand, kind of, than HBO Max, at least.
I don't know. I think content-wise, they're pretty much the same.
True, but, Netflix has 200 million subscribers and HBO Max has, 41?
Yeah, but, it's not... You don't really make the price for the amount of subscribers you have. You just make the price in accordance to what you think you're worth.
Yeah, but take something like Disney Plus. Like, they released them, the streaming service, at a very competitive price. I think it was like $6. And you could pay for like a 3-year deal, which would mean that you effectively would pay like $4 a month if you paid for like a 3-year deal or something. So it was a really competitive price. Plus, it's Disney. It's a very big and important brand, meaning that a lot of people just signed up for that 3-year deal, and that has meant that they're now at over 100 million subscribers. They're also worldwide, which HBO Max isn't, but still.
Well, they're planning to be worldwide at some
point. They're getting there, but
they're getting there.
My point with the day-and-day release from Warner Brothers is I don't disagree with the idea. It is the execution of it
I understand. Yeah.
It's like good idea, but you stumbled through a lot of shit to get to it.
I would have pitched harder on the streaming services if I were them. Like,
Yeah.
maybe make more of a special deal for the release of like Wonder Woman or whatever, whichever one comes first, or your big tentpole movies that you're releasing now on HBO Max. For example, like, okay, you don't want to pay $15 a month to watch Wonder Woman.
Right.
You can buy, let's say, 3 months for $15. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, like that's
on top of the free trial.
right.
You know,
it just seems like in a lot of ways, AT&T and Warner has been like they've had like ideas, but they've been really bad at implementing them.
Yeah,
like
I guess.
Like HBO Max launched like what last year?
Yeah,
and it still hasn't gotten off the American continent, and it's like that's a problem.
Dude, those AT&T antennas, they're not very good, okay?
But the thing
it takes a while for the signal to get
but
here.
they already have a streaming service worldwide. They have HBO. It's like, how fucking hard can it be?
They have Go and Nordic and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, why not just convert that into Max?
Yeah, like how fucking...
Just pay an intern to modify the HTML to modify the logo into Max. And
like...
Well, because a bunch of people, that's what it's, yeah, that's, I mean, now, now we're kind of getting on the same page, because this kind of irks me the wrong way, too, because you already have a bunch of people, especially in Europe, paying for HBO subscriptions. You know, whether it's the television subscription or Go or Nordic.
Right.
So why not just give them HBO Max?
Yeah.
For free?
Yeah, like upgrade it. You know.
Because then you'll inflate your numbers, and then you'll be like, we're available in gajillions of houses.
Yeah.
And then it will increase your popularity, and more people will buy it.
Yeah. But there is also the idea of, you know, content driving the platform, which is, again, why AT&T decided to go with this, let's do a day-and-day release. And you kind of notice there hasn't really been that many new shows from HBO Max. Like, what's the biggest show they've released? It like that? What was it? Raised by Wolves, the Ridley Scott thing.
That was pretty good. I liked it.
I haven't seen it, but I heard it's good.
It's really good.
And they've
it came out a while ago, though.
Yeah,
a couple of months ago.
But then you look at, again, Disney Plus, which I would also argue didn't actually have that big of an output to begin with. Like, they basically only had The Mandalorian keeping that shit alive.
Yeah.
In terms of new content. But now they're like, we have 8 more Star Wars shows and 20 Marvel shows. And
yeah, but those things are upcoming. Oh, well, they did a WandaVision and
Falcon and Winter Soldier. And now they're doing Loki like next month or something. So it's like, they're starting to get into that content build that like Netflix has.
Yeah, you know? Got it. I think HBO has that as well, though, because they can just they just put whatever stuff they produce for HBO on HBO Max.
Yeah, like I would definitely say that HBO Max as a back catalog has probably the best back catalog, because
and they have deals with Criterion as well.
Yeah, so. And they have TCM, so they have like basically all of the classic movies.
Yep.
And then of course they have all the big and popular show from things like HBO and things like that. So,
I guess the thing is that HBO in general as a brand, and this kind of makes sense why they made a deal with Criterion, because they kind of are like more of a, I don't want to say sophisticated, but more of a movies service, as in if you're like interested in movies as more than just the popcorn entertainment, and you know, kind of at a more artistic level. And this kind of ties into Warner Brothers as a studio, because they were known for years, maybe probably until recently, as the director's studio. As in, if you want to make a movie and you want to be in complete control and have a reasonable budget,
you go to Warner Bros.
Yeah. Exactly. Stanley Kubrick made all his movies with Warner Brothers. Christopher Nolan does all his movies with Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis.
And Peter Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah.
So it kind of became like this hub for, instead of big tentpole franchises like Marvel, want to see the new Marvel show. It's more of a, you know, it's more of a a space for artistic shows that are just made from scratch. They're not based on intellectual properties, maybe outside of Harry Potter.
Right. But they've also carried that into some of their more, how do I put it, brand-oriented work. You know, if you look at Harry Potter, you have people like Alfonso Cuarón directing the third one.
Right, right.
Bring him back for the TV show, please. I'm just saying. You'll make bank. Well, I don't know if you'll make bank. I'll watch it.
Ka-ching.
Will I? I don't know. This is the thing. Like Warner Bros.
Great pitch, that.
Warner Bros. Can't do anything without fucking half of it up. It's like you have Harry Potter, one of the biggest franchises of all time, and it's like, yes, let's make a TV show. We can't. Universal owns the streaming rights. Oh, let's wait a few years. Looks at J.K. Rowling's Twitter. Fuck. But like they did it with DC by giving a lot of the control in the beginning to Zack Snyder, which we've talked about. Go watch our Zack Snyder a-thon. And people like James Wan and Patty Jenkins, of course.
What's the name of the guy who did Shazam?
David F. Sandberg.
Yeah, him as well. You know, he's also like a creator with a voice, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And because of this, they have sort of all their own little unique flavor compared to something like Marvel, which is very samey.
Yep.
Not in a negative way, but you know, maybe a little bit in a negative way.
Great pitch there.
But you know what I mean, like.
Yeah. What's the difference between an episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Civil War? You know.
You don't have Spider-Man in it. Warner Bros. To an extent is still a creator studio, but I would say that like reputation have been tarnished since they got handed it to at&t, and that's why I kind of hope that this Discovery deal will maybe put them a bit more back on track. But I do also fear that it's kind of too little too late in a way, because they need to, in order to make their service worth it, quote unquote, even though I do think that HBO Max is worth it in itself because of just all the other content they have, but they need to keep producing content, and that of course takes a lot of money. You know, Netflix itself is using like billions and billions of dollars a year on content because they need to keep those 200 million people that are subscribed to it subscribed, and if not, then they implode.
Right.
Yeah, they are also in massive debt, but at&t doesn't have $17 billion to spend on content on 1 year, you know.
Right.
So it takes a little bit more time. I would say they have really strong brands to get going with. You know, they have DC, which, despite the flukes, is still a pretty good brand. They have Game of Thrones, which, despite the fluke, is still a pretty big brand. Like, it's still one of the biggest television shows of all time. They have Harry Potter, which, despite the fluke, is, you know, kind of, they have big brands with an asterisk, you know?
Yeah.
Which is funny, honestly.
They have that Sopranos movie.
I still haven't seen The Sopranos. I'm actually kind of looking forward to HBO Max coming, because I've been thinking about going from Netflix to HBO Max and then finally watch Sopranos.
I want to finally watch The Wire. Anyway.
Same. And that team is also making new stuff. And
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And of course they're building out their DC stuff. They announced quite recently an Injustice animated movie based on the video game series, and a new Batman animated show with Bruce Timm involved. They finally realized he exists. Where's Paul Dini?
Hey, Bruce Timm, you doing anything? Yeah, I've been waiting for 20 years in this closet.
And you just keep making fucking Batman movies.
I had a bunch of ideas written on a piece of paper, but then I gave it to somebody and they threw them in a wood chipper.
But yeah, I kind of want to take this discussion and broaden it out a little bit to just the industry in general, because I find it kind of interesting that, you know, a lot of content nowadays is in the hands of these massive companies who may or may not be actually like capable of controlling it, you know?
Obviously, nowadays, the big tech company, the big dick boy, is Amazon, you know, because they have what seems to be infinite money.
Yeah.
And check out Jeff Bezos' Twitter. And
no, please don't.
And you know, they can pretty much burn money on anything they want.
Right.
And that basically makes them unstoppable. And Daniel, you mentioned that other companies are selling their shares, other media companies, that is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumors going around that like Sony would sell off their movie division. That was a rumor a little while ago. Amazon is actually in talks to buy MGM for $9 billion, which is pocket change
for them.
Which is funny because there was a lot of news going around that like MGM wanted to sell off the new James Bond movie, like the streaming rights to it, because it's been sitting on a shelf for like a year. So they were like, yo, Netflix, want to pay $600 million for James Bond? And Netflix was like, no.
Nah.
So now Amazon is just going to take the entire company. It's like, okay.
Well, because I think the idea of a streaming service, particularly when you're talking about a franchise, you want to have as much of that franchise as you can to give your viewers more to watch. Right. You know, like I watched this James Bond movie. Oh, there's another one, you know.
Here's all 24, I guess.
Whatever. You can watch the one where Sean Connery is racist, or the one where Sean Connery is racist, or the one where Sean Connery is racist.
Watch the one where he's both racist and sexist.
Well, no, yeah. You can watch the one where he's old, racist, and sexist. They're horrible. Anyway, what I'm saying is, it just makes sense for a streaming company to be able to purchase as much of the franchise or the streaming rights at least as they can, you know, so they can rack up more views or more whatever the fuck they quantify their success in.
Right.
And so it makes total sense for Amazon to just purchase MGM entirely.
Yeah, because they can.
Yeah, and one, they're useless. They don't make anything outside of James Bond movies, I think.
I think they have a television division, kind of like Sony does. You know,
they make Tom and Jerry cartoons.
No, that's Warner Brothers.
Right. Okay. And so it makes total sense, but it is kind of scary that just because a lot of studios are in an impasse where they don't know how to make money anymore, they're kind of up for grabs by this giant conglomerate monster that has become Amazon. I'm surprised. Elon Musk isn't starting his own streaming service.
Don't tell him.
It's gonna be called the Diamond in the Rough. Because I think Amazon, at least in the last couple of years, has produced some pretty good content.
Yeah, like
not just purchasing it, but paying for production and stuff.
Yeah, like we both watched Invincible and loved it.
Yeah, and The Boys and
which I haven't watched, but
it's kind of the same as Invincible, pretty much. But you know, whenever I watch Amazon shows, there's always that slant to it but I'm watching something that's lining the pockets of this man who is ungodly wealthy.
Yeah.
And I just feel a bit, you know, like...
Feel a bit achy?
It's the same feeling you get when you hear about the stories of, well, they're not stories, they're reality. The stories of drivers pissing in bottles, you know, like to make up delivery times. And
yeah.
And, you know, the argument is that, well, you need to stay competitive. Well, like... What are the stakes here? So stay competitive to do what? To be more rich than that?
Competitive against who? Yourself?
And also that.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that Amazon at least can offer deals to the industry, to people working in the industry, writers, producers, actors, directors, that would be beneficial to them and not rip them off, you know, the same way they do their drivers.
Right.
Everybody on set needs to pee in a bottle.
Oh, God. It's also kind of the idea that Amazon and Apple, lest we forget that they also have a streaming service, because it seems like Apple has kind of gotten a big audience without even trying, because they just tie it to their actual product, which is Amazon Prime or just Apple products.
Yeah, if you purchase, I know because my aunt has Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And she told me that she isn't interested that much in streaming. Like, she doesn't watch movies that often or TV shows or whatever. But she told me, well, I got it because if you get Prime, you get discounts on orders, because she orders a lot of shit through Amazon.
And you get like day release or whatever. You get like faster.
Yeah, faster delivery because their drivers pee in bottles.
Right.
But you get discounts on offers, and basically the streaming service is entirely, for a lot of people, it's a plus.
Yeah.
Like, cool. Oh, streaming service, cool.
Yeah. Like, and
there's also the added bonus that you can, a lot of movies, if not most movies that are released, you can rent on Amazon.
Yeah, or
to
Apple.
watch.
Or iTunes.
Yeah, and Apple.
Sorry.
Or iTunes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, which you can't do on Netflix. Netflix, you have the catalog that they offer, and then that's
Right.
it. You can't rent anything on top of that,
And the problem with the extended streaming landscape, you could say, is that a lot of the war. I love that people call it a streaming war.
The streamies.
The streamies. Is that what the Oscars are going to be called next year?
And the winner goes, the award goes to all go to Jeff Bezos. By the way, unrelated, this show is brought to you by Amazon.
But I kind of found it funny that I saw a list of how many subscribers the different services had, and Apple was at like number 5, which is funny because it seems like Apple doesn't even know they have a streaming service.
It's funny because there's, we talk about all the catalog that HBO Max has and Amazon has, and Netflix obviously has a large catalog. What the fuck is on Apple TV?
They took that Tom Hanks movie where he's on a warship. That's all I know.
Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, that's all I know that's on Apple.
I know that animated movie from Ireland is on Apple TV.
Oh yeah, the Wolfwalkers?
Wolfwalkers, thank you. Yeah.
I need to watch that.
Well, yeah, because that's the one thing that I was interested in.
Right.
I looked at the trailer and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. It's from a studio that I like.
Yeah. Same.
And then I was like, okay, where can I find it? Apple TV. Oh, yeah, Apple TV is a thing.
But they have like 50 million subscribers. They have more subscribers than HBO Max. And it's like, what?
Well, because HBO Max isn't a tech company. They don't produce software or hardware that you can also purchase, right?
Yeah,
They're just the streaming service.
And the funny thing is, like, for a long time, Amazon was also that. Like, Amazon didn't really produce any shows, and then they made The Boys. That was kind of their big break, kind of. And now they've started to produce more, and they keep talking about that Lord of the Rings show that's going to cost gazillion dollars because it can.
Well, I think the first big thing, I don't want to contradict you, Daniel.
Fair enough.
But they did a show called Alpha House with John Goodman. I remember that.
I don't remember that.
This was in the very beginning. It's insanely bad.
Was it back when they were doing like pilot season? Where they
it was even before that, but
okay.
Around that same time.
Because I remember pilot season.
Remember Jean-Claude Van Johnson? Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, but I think their first actually trying prestige TV show with a big budget was The Man in the High Castle.
Oh right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Okay, you're probably right. Yeah. That was probably the first big one. But
and then The Boys, yeah. The
Boys and Invincible kind of now has become their new one, at least in a certain crowd. The nerds.
They're working on the Lord of the Rings big temple TV show,
which I'm almost adamant doesn't exist.
It's a scam.
It's we've talked in private about how there keep coming news out that it's insanely expensive. Like the first season is going to be $500 million or something, which boggles the mind. But I was looking it up yesterday just for fun. There are no set photos of that thing, and it's
do we know who's in it?
We have a cast list, yes.
Okay.
And we have directors, and we the most things you can find are people standing next to gear. So somebody standing next to a boom arm or something like that, or next to a camera. You can't find any I'm an actor in costume or something. You can't find any.
Did they still shoot it in New Zealand?
They shot in New Zealand.
Did they shoot at the Shire set?
I don't think so, because I don't
remember, because there's a property that you can.
Yeah, but I don't think so, because
then it would attract comparison with Peter Jackson.
No, I also think it's because what they're shooting, even though they keep calling it Lord of the Rings, it doesn't actually have an official name yet.
The Silmarillion.
Yeah, is that era, and I don't think the Shire exists in that era. I've never read the Silmarillion, so
I really think I'm feeling it's gonna suck because the Silmarillion is a tough book to go through.
I have a feeling it's going to be a hard sell.
So it's a hard sell, bro.
But yeah, but
Hulk Hogan as Gandalf.
But of course, it's because they're shooting in remote locations in New Zealand, so there's no like guy in a field who just takes a photo of it and uploads it to Reddit.
Right.
You know, like with Witcher. Go look up set photos of The Witcher. Looks okay.
Got him.
But it's just funny that there are no like photos of this thing being made, even though it's like the most expensive thing since like Jeff Bezos' boat.
In like the very far future, when the new species is gonna auction out like old pieces of the old world, like the most expensive pieces found on old Earth were this huge yacht belonging to this crazy billionaire and a DVD box set of the Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series,
which is still just called the Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series.
Title pending in parentheses.
But it is kind of funny because it feels like now that Amazon is actually trying to be a big streaming service. By that I mean actively putting money into it and developing properties.
Right.
You know, they have already announced like 2 more seasons of Invincible, and they're working on a live action thing. You know, there's the Lord of the Rings stuff, and there's probably more that I don't even know about. But I also have the feeling that if Apple actually wanted to, they could like do a squeeze and then suddenly be bigger than Disney Plus if they wanted.
Yeah, well, you know, you just need to hire somebody who can manage the division, basically.
Yeah, and that's
like
what the Discovery thing feels like.
And, you know, these people are available all over the place. Like, oh, somebody got released from somewhere else, but they have experience in doing this, and the release is not because they're a horrible monster or whatever. So let's just bring him and try to make this work. Like, you don't need to... You know, when you have stupid amounts of money, you know, these things are relatively easy. You know, they just take time to have them come out, you know.
But it almost makes me think that now that at&t have sort of let themselves off Warner, still owning, you know, 71%, but kind of left themselves loose. They're just waiting for somebody like Apple to come over and be like, yeah, we would want to pay $100 billion for that.
I'll have me some of that.
I'll have me that. And
all right.
It's just interesting, I think, at least, that a lot of content that we consume nowadays is in the hands of big companies that don't really like care, but also big companies that kind of have to keep pumping things out despite the fact that it might be bad. I'm looking at you, Netflix.
Yeah, well, because one of the, you know, it became an assembly line of content. You know, we just need to keep making content to put it out so that people stay subscribed to the service, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have a filter of quality that much, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of people make the joke that you can just phone Netflix and then they'll greenlit your idea.
Yeah.
But that's why I appreciated sort of the approach of somebody like HBO, where their idea seemed to be that we're going to focus all of our money on a small amount of TV shows that will all be done to a very high standard.
Right.
Like, to say what you want about Game of Thrones, it was disappointed in the end, but it was always executed to a high standard.
Yeah. Like, and even though the ending was batshit bad, it's, you know, still one of the most popular television shows of all time, and still one of the like biggest productions, you know, and it was executed really well in that regard, you know.
Whereas if you go on Netflix, there's so much stuff on it.
Yeah.
And not because, oh, we have so many people with great ideas.
Yeah.
It's just we need to put in more and more stuff. So here's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So you like I have Netflix, you have Netflix as well, and browsing Netflix is a nightmare.
I actively hate browsing Netflix. It is the worst.
Because I don't know what I'm looking at half of the time. Like, what is this? The Bermuda Connection. What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Mr. Pants on Fire, help me. Whatever. Like,
or like the funny thing is, if you actually look at let's just compare HBO and Netflix for a second.
Sure.
In like so HBO has things like Game of Thrones. That was their big like fantasy tentpole show that was like really popular, paved the way for a lot of other of that shows of that kind. And then you look at Netflix's equivalent, which is probably Witcher.
Mm,
Can you come up with a better alternative?
mm,
But by that I mean they're both, they're fantasy, they're based on kind of popular IPs. I'll probably say Witcher's.
the problem with the comparison is that Game of Thrones had 8 seasons and Witcher has 1.
Okay, let's just take the first season of Game of Thrones then, to be fair. Because then you're talking about a basically 10-year-old season versus one that's like, what, 2 years old? 1 year old? I still think that there was more effort poured into the Game of Thrones season than there was into The Witcher. And I don't hate Witcher. I think Witcher's fine. It just feels like as a production it was not rushed. It just felt weird in a way that the Game of Thrones didn't. And that's maybe because they had a better production team, they had a more focused idea of what they were going to do. Who knows? It's just whenever Netflix comes out with something, it feels like it hasn't gone through quality control in a way, and if it's good, it's sort of on accident.
I think they have a lot of good projects. I don't think any
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them
like
rose to the popularity of Game of Thrones,
no,
unfortunately. I think some came close in the past. Like you had
Stranger Things was big for them.
Yeah, Stranger Things was huge. At the beginning, the very beginning, House of Cards pretty much broke the streaming service to the public, right?
Yeah, like that was.
I think it was there on launch or something.
Yeah, that was like their big.
Which is unfortunate now in retrospect.
Oh boy.
And they put money into stuff, into recurrent stuff that is sometimes good. Like you have Black Mirror and you have Love, Death, Robots, which are interesting projects that yield interesting results.
Right.
The problem is they don't really have that much mainstream appeal. They're more fringe culture. They're both like heavy dark sci-fi shows. They're not. I don't know.
Shadow and Bone.
I know what that thing exists. I don't know what it is.
Don't watch it. It's very bad. It's pretty bad.
I mean, Jupiter's Legacy. Am I right, everybody?
Okay, Jupiter's Legacy is so bad, I watched one episode and then I started watching Invincible instead.
I just hope that basically people who are trying to sell movies, mostly at film festivals and the like, people who make productions independently, who then put them or make them available at conventions or festivals. That's where they make purchase deals with streaming services. I hope that they get competitive deals because of the competitive nature of the streaming service as it is now. Like obviously, if you have a movie that you think is good, you have a representative from Amazon, one from Netflix. Hopefully, they're gonna put a competitor deal, and hopefully, that's what you can hope for as a content creator or director or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
Which is two things: you're hoping for a good deal monetary wise, and you're hoping for a good push on the streaming service. Because if you just get dumped there and you don't get advertised, then you might as well. What the fuck?
Yeah, like I've heard
nobody's gonna find it.
I've heard that as a big problem with things like Netflix.
Like, good thing Jupiter's Legacy gets advertised in my fucking face every time I open the streaming service, but I don't give a fuck about that. And I don't get advertised anything else. Like, there's this movie here called Oxygen by a relatively famous French director. I didn't even know it existed until like yesterday, and it wasn't even because of Netflix that I realized it existed.
Yeah, me too. I also didn't know that movie existed until like yesterday.
Yeah, it's because of Adam's YMS video, right?
Yeah. But so I also hope that there gets put in place some kind of, like, the EU has talked about some regulations of these big streaming services, so that they have to compensate the sort of industry that they're producing in. So if Netflix wants to make a French show, they put like a certain percentage of the budget back into the industry, so that it can sort of grow and sustain itself, and then Netflix gets some deal out of that. If like new things get made, they get like a first look deal or something like that. And I would hope to see deals like that sort of come through, so that, if our future is Bezos overlord, at least it will make the local industries better in a way.
Way to sell it, Daniel. All right, I guess this concludes our discussion on the AT&T, PepsiCo, Dr. Pepper, Time Warner, Oreo merger.
It's a very big topic, and there's a lot of nuance to it, and
But looking forward to whatever efforts HBO does next. I'm curious. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it being available in fucking Europe.
Yeah.
Take my fucking money, you son of a bitches. And I'm looking forward to what Netflix does as well. I'm subscribed to them. I want to see them do well because I want good content. Basically, that's the gist of it. Thank you for listening, and look forward to more content from us, not from them. And look forward to our Kaiju season, which is in full swing.
Sponsored by Jeff Bezos.